games at all in the house, you will no doubt have heard of a release this week, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. This is pretty much a global sensation. It's expected to raise more than $1 billion in sales in the first 6 weeks of sales. So that's before Christmas. It'll have raised $1 billion in sales. And it's gone on sale across Limerick this week in a number of different stores. One caller, Michael, is on the line. He's got a few comments to make about this game. Good morning.
Hi. I went down to game last Tuesday to purchase the game, and when I got there, I found the game was but it was $52.95.
This is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 that everybody's been waiting for. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah. So that game was $54.95 in game. I went down to HMV, and the price of the game was $52.95. I then decided that I would go up to Tesco's, and to my amazement, when I went to Tesco's, the exact same game was $42.95.
That's a big difference.
Now, that's a difference of nearly €13 for walking 2 minutes from Cruises Street to Arthur's Quay. I find it completely unacceptable that, Tesco's have to make a profit. They're not selling it at a loss, and I just can't understand why there is such a big difference with the three shops.
And was there anything different about the games that were selling? Like sometimes I think some of these games, they offer something extra, like maybe a poster or added features in the game.
No, it was the exact same game that was in HMV as in Tesco's. There was no difference at all.
And that was the difference in price?
That was the difference in price, yeah.
So did you buy it?
I did, at €42. And actually, when I walking up to town, I met one of my colleagues, and he had bought it in HMV. And when I told him what I had paid for it, he went back to HMV, got a refund, and went over to Tesco and bought the game over in Tesco's.
Have you tried the game so far, or is it a Christmas present for someone?
No, my son has tried it already, which again, I find it not right either, because that game should have been brought out, but next month, not on the 8th of November, where kids would have wanted the game straight away.
Well, surely that's up to the parents to decide.
It is, you see, but he's at school, all his pals have played it, and then, it's kind of stalled in by next month is kind of gone off there, we said there's some other new game out then,
Michael, can I ask you, how old's your son?
He's 14.
And this particular game, is there an age restriction on it?
There is, yeah.
What is it?
18.
And you're okay with him playing the over 18 games, even though he's only 14?
Yeah. But he's still going to play it anyway. So, but I have viewed it, and I found it okay, so I just left him off of that. But
they're pretty violent, aren't they?
Pardon?
They're pretty violent, these games.
It's just all shooting, they're in a plane or something, and they're shooting at whoever there, But that's all it is, There's no bad language or anything like that in it,
Yeah, okay. So you're not bothered by the violence in it?
Well, I would be a bit concerned about it, but as I said, that
they're all at it.
They're all doing it,
Yeah.
I don't believe that you'd have many people over 18 playing that game. You might, but certainly the vast amount would be between 16 and 14 and 16.
Well, I actually have a games expert in the studio with us this morning. Mark O'Byrne, you're very welcome to the studio. Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me on.
We'll just have to fix the mics there. 1 second now. If you could move over to that one. Sorry, somebody's been fiddling with a few buttons here. That's great. Mark, you do write reviews on video games.
I write reviews for Click Magazine.
So you're very well up on this Modern Warfare 3 Call of Duty
Yes, it's
game.
one of the most anticipated games of the year. As you say, it's going to be the biggest selling possibly of all time. It's already breaking sales records and looks set to eclipse its predecessor as well. So.
Explain to me why it's so anticipated. It says Modern Warfare 3, so I assume it's the third in a series.
It's actually part of the Call of Duty franchise, which at this stage is up to 7 or 8 releases, but they've broken off with the Modern Warfare side of things, which puts it in the near future in a battle between Russia and the United States, where Russia are trying to invade and occupy New York, although in a different way than is currently in the news headlines.
So why is this so anticipated? Is it because the political side of it? I mean, is that what people are interested in, or is it just the graphics are better, or is it just a snowball effect? Each one, will the next one, Modern Warfare 4, make even more money?
It's certainly a snowball effect. It's set a trend and it's set a standard for itself, both in terms of single player, where it rivals Hollywood films, in terms of cinematics and set pieces, but also on the multiplayer side, which people are playing previous releases to this day. So it's obviously very popular. It's set value for money. I mean, as you said, it ranges from 40 to 50 euro, but people are playing it for days on end and getting their values worth that way.
Okay. Well, Mark, can you explain to Michael why the price range varies so greatly between one shop and another?
Well, I certainly have to commend Michael for shopping around, first of all. At the end of the day, it's the retailers who are setting the end goal price. So it comes down to basic economics. It's supply and demand. And as you said, this is one of the most anticipated games of the year, so retailers are seeing that they can get an extra slice of the pie here and are bumping up the price as a result. You've seen it with some previous releases, mainly in the Call of Duty franchise, but this is the big release of the year, so they're trying to make their margins before Christmas just to give them that little edge.
I think some of the shops as well, they do special offers in terms of if you bring in some old games, they'll do a trade-off. Could that explain the price difference?
It could. The trade-ins actually benefit the retailers at the end of the day, because while they're selling the game for €3, the games that they bring in, they get traded in and you give them credit towards the game, but then they get bumped up in price and traded on to someone else. So it is part of the function, or it's part of the feature, but I think it's basically how anticipated the title is, because the shops opened at midnight, so obviously there's a demand for that in the first place. And
were there queues?
There were big queues.
In Limerick?
In Limerick and all over the country and all over the world.
Wow. And who was queuing? It's an over 18 game, so was it all... I mean, Michael, you believe that most people who are playing this are actually under 18, don't you?
I would say that, yeah.
So is it mammies and daddies that are queuing up to buy these games?
Some, and it's some groups of friends, some over 18, some under 18. Basically just people who really want to get their hands on the game first.
Michael, would you have queued up at midnight to get it if...
No.
No, for any price?
No.
No, for any... right.
But just on that as well, he did mention there about if you're trading a game, but you can only trade in a select number of games, which will be just only recently out anyway. And they will, yes, they will take all games off you, but they'll only offer you about €4 or €5 for those games.
Okay, so it's...
So it has to be one of the latest games that they will take in, and they will tell you exactly what games will take for it, you know.
Right. So your advice, Michael, to everyone is to shop around.
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Well, you saved yourself a few bob anyway, haven't you?
Yeah.
Mark, on the topic of age, you know, and the fact that these are restricted, would you agree with Michael that most of the players would be under 18?
From playing online and having the microphone headsets, you do hear a lot of underage voices. Unfortunately, that's the reality. You have to, again, commend Michael for actually taking an interest in the side of video games and playing it himself or testing it out and just making sure that it is somewhat suitable.
Is he right when he says there's no bad language?
There is no bad language. It's one of the surprising features of the Call of Duty franchise.
Because it's soldiers. You kind of almost expect there's a few swear words here and there.
I think it's drowned out by the sound of gunfire.
Right. So it's all gunfire. There's really no plot either, you know.
It's a very loose plot. It's like a Jason Statham movie. You go in and you kind of turn off your brain, you enjoy the explosions, and you get what you pay for.
Now, the online side of it, that's a big thing, and maybe some parents possibly aren't even aware of how that works. A lot of the kids now, they have the headsets on, and they're going onto the internet, and they could be playing kids who are on their couches over in Texas.
It's both a benefit and a drawback of online multiplayer. For example, I'm able to play friends who've moved to London recently, but there is the other side that you're able to play people who will swear, people who give abuse. So I think it's up to parents to take an interest once again and just monitor what their kids are up to.
Yeah, I mean, these kids could be talking to men in their 40s and 50s who are playing these games purely to get access to young children.
It is possible to restrict who you're talking to as well. For example, you can play with your party of friends, so you're just talking to those people.
Yeah, but how many parents actually know how to put that restriction in place?
I think it's time for people to start learning. It's one of these things that we're is becoming a reality where people will play online. People have always been able to play online, but it's taking that new aspect of actual communication via a headset.
Yeah, my son plays these games, right? And he is underage, but and I've watched them as well. They're not as gory as some of the things. I mean, he was a big fan of Jurassic Park, and there was a hell of a lot more gore in those movies than you see in these films. But I do think it's important that they're not left to play for hours and hours and hours on end. Sorry, Michael?
Yeah.
I was just making the point that, it's not a good thing to leave young boys playing these games for hours and hours and hours on end.
Well, certainly not, yeah.
But he plays them with the online headset and plays with the boy who's 3 or 4 doors up the road, and I find it odd. They're playing in an online environment in two houses that are quite close to each other, but I'm a lot more comfortable with that than the idea of him playing with complete and utter strangers over in the United States.
Yeah, and certainly, but I'd give the same opinion myself, that it's not right, because I don't know who he's playing with. As you said, he could be 40 or 50 or more, and I mean that, and I have advised Jason on that,
Yeah, I mean they have to be careful who they're playing with, and I've heard stories about passwords being passed on and people hacking into their accounts as well and wiping out some of their credits and all that kind of thing. I mean, the kids are also asking for their parents' credit card numbers so they can buy this and that and whatever online, and it's a dangerous ground you're heading into, isn't it?
With the side of playing strangers, I think the unfortunate reality is that the people who are under 18 are actually better at the game than those who are in their 40s and 50s. But as you say, account security is paramount at this stage. So there's people online who are trying to scam people by saying that they can give you extra experience points or new guns, and you just have to say, go back to the old expression, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So there's no point in giving out your password, even if it sounds like it's from Activision or Infinity Ward. They won't email you for your password. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, what frightens me is this is a whole new world. Now, Michael, I don't want to make any judgments about your age, but you sound like you may be in the same age bracket as myself. And when we were growing up, these computer games didn't exist. So we're not as familiar with the whole area. We don't walk into these video shops to buy games for ourselves. So the technology is updating all the time, and our children are keeping up, but we're not. Does that frighten you at all, Michael?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and
as you said, but yeah, that I never had a computer game when I was growing up. They weren't even around at the time, I don't think. And yes, but I mean certainly that I would try look at and see but what he's playing with, and certainly would not allow if I thought it was vulgar or anything like that, I would not allow Jason to play with it,
Okay, well, it certainly sounds like you're keeping an eye on it. And thanks for getting in touch with us, Michael, and letting us know about those price differences, and well done on getting a bargain to you. Mark, just finally to you, any advice for parents who have allowed their children to have some of these games or who are playing online? Is it that difficult to work out how to block?
It's not very difficult. You can go into account settings and make sure they're just playing with friends, really, if that's the route you want to go down. At the end of the day, it is about keeping an eye on things, and as you say, 6 hours a day isn't the most healthy, so it balances everything on that side of things as well.
Okay, thanks very much to Mark Byrne. We'll take a piece of music back after this.